The tricks to make yourself charming. As soon as you stroll into a room, individuals are making decisions regarding the amount they like you. Luckily, there are ways of working on your possibilities. A large portion of us have run over them eventually, the sort of individuals who can stroll into a room loaded with outsiders, however, at that point leave with 10 new companions, a get-together for the following day, and the guarantee of a prologue to an industry insider. Charmers. What makes these fortunate people so easily agreeable when large numbers of us need to take a stab at it? While many would have you accept basic show of manners or prevailing upon individuals is something of a fine art, there is an amazing measure of science behind it as well. The elements that decide our prosperity with others, and the impressions we make upon them, can begin even before we meet them. Research has demonstrated individuals we meet frequently make decisions about us dependent absolutely upon the manner in which we look. Alexander Todorov, a teacher of brain science at Princeton, has shown that individuals can make decisions about somebody's agreeability, dependability and skill in the wake of seeing their face for under a tenth of a second. While certain things, similar to strength, are profoundly connected with morphological highlights, there are things like dependability and even appeal which are exceptionally subject to looks, says Todorov, whose book Face Value, The Irresistible Influence of First Impressions investigates this peculiarity. Making a snap judgment on something so shallow could appear to be careless, yet we do it all the time without understanding. Also, it can have genuine ramifications. For instance, it could influence who you vote in favor of. One review shows that facial appearance can be utilized to foresee the result of races to the U.S. Senate. Additionally, facial attributes related with capability have likewise been effective in foreseeing the results of races including Bulgarian, French, Mexican and Brazilian lawmakers. The decisions we make about somebody's face can impact our monetary choices as well. In one investigation, borrowers who were seen as looking less reliable were less inclined to get credits on a shared loaning site. Banks were showing up notwithstanding having data regarding the borrower's business status and record of loan repayment readily available. Set on a happy face. Obviously, while you will be unable to control the actual highlights of your face, it is feasible to change your demeanors and grin. Todorov has utilized information-driven factual models to assemble calculations that can control countenances to look pretty much dependable, permitting him to coax at the elements that we trust the most. As indicated by his work, as a face becomes more joyful, it likewise turns out to be more reliable. Individuals will see a grinning face as more dependable, hotter and agreeable, clarifies Todorov. One of the significant contributions to these impressions is passionate articulation. Assuming you take a gander at our models, and control the countenances to turn out to be more dependable or outgoing, you see the enthusiastic demeanor rise, the face becomes blissful. The elements that decide our prosperity with others, and the impressions we make upon them, can begin even before we meet them. For those circumstances where our initial feeling has not been just about as great as we would have trusted, there is likewise trust. We can in any case prevail upon individuals so they fail to remember that underlying snap judgment. Fortunately, we can rapidly supersede our initial feeling showed up, says Todorov. Assuming you had the chance to meet somebody, the second you have great data about them, you will fundamentally have an impact on the manner in which you see them. If you can intrigue somebody, they will frequently disregard what they thought when they previously saw us, regardless of whether it was negative. Channel your charm. This is the place where appeal can come in. Olivia Fox-Gibbon, a chief mentor and creator of the charisma myth, characterizes fascinate as affability and that it is so brilliant to connect with somebody. In opposition to famous portrayals, being amiable can have its advantages in business. Business visionaries with better interactive abilities are bound to be effective, and laborers who are popular are better at getting everything they might want at work. A review by the University of Massachusetts, for instance, observed that inner inspectors who were popular and given a coordinated contention were bound to have administrators concur with their proposition, regardless of whether director would somehow or another will generally contradict the examiner's position in the event that they had not met them. Susan DeJonas, an associated teacher of the board at Seattle University, says, relational abilities are turning out to be progressively significant in the working environment as associations have discarded more established, various leveled structures as of late. It's become more relevant, more basic, to can work in groups and impact regardless of a genuine title, she says. Having a more joyful look can cause you to show up more dependable. The best part is that it's feasible to prepare yourself to fascinate. Jack Schaefer, a therapist and resigned FBI specialist who is an affability mentor and creator of the like switch, focuses to Johnny Carson as a quintessential illustration of somebody who favored being distant from everyone else, except who figured out how to be incredibly amiable for the camera. The late host of The Tonight Show would go a very long time without giving meetings, and when told the LA Times that 98% of the time he returned home after the show rather than deciding to associate with the glitterati. Carson was an outrageous self-observer who prepared himself to be a social butterfly, says Schaefer. When the show was over he nestled into returned home, however on TV he was well known for grinning and snickering and making jokes, causing a stir. So how might most of us be seriously beguiling? Schaefer says fascinate begins with a basic blaze of the eyebrows. Our cerebrums are continuously reviewing the climate for companion or adversary signals, he says. The three significant things we do when we approach someone that signal we are not a danger are, an eyebrow streak, a fast wild development of the eyebrow that goes on with regards to a sixth of per second, a slight head slant, and a grin. So presently you have made your entry, ideally without grunting like a neurotic. Specialists concur that the following key to amiability is to make your association regarding the other individual. That implies not discussing yourself. The brilliant rule of companionship is assuming you cause individuals to have a decent outlook on themselves, they will like you, says Schaefer. Cubbin concurs, however says it can work in the event that you show a genuine interest in what the future held. Envision the other individual as a person in a non-mainstream movie, she recommends. Those characters become seriously interesting the more you find out regarding them. You'll regard yourself as noticing and showing real interest in their peculiarities and character. Assuming that comes up short, she says interest can likewise be faked. Zero in on the various shadings in their irises, she says. By keeping in touch, it will give the impression of interest. Schaefer proposes offering empathic expressions that could mirror some of what the other individual is feeling. I once saw an understudy in a satisfied lift with himself, he clarifies. I said it appears as though you are having a decent day. He proceeded to inform me regarding how he just aced a test he had gone through weeks reading up for. That whole trade caused him to have a decent outlook on himself. Assuming that you find out about the individual you're talking with, you can be significantly more compelling. Rather than direct blandishment, you need to permit individuals to compliment themselves, he says. When I figure out your age I can offer something like, you are in your 30s and compose for the BBC. Very few individuals can do that so youthful. Presently you're giving yourself a mental congratulatory gesture. In a systems administration circumstance, something many individuals fear, you might have heard something about the individual you're talking with, permitting you to raise explicit points that are pertinent to them. You can say, I heard that this incredible thing occurred for you, I'd very much want to hear the story, proposes DeJonas. Settle on something worth agreeing on. DeJonas likewise recommends underscoring shared view, in any event, when your viewpoints separate. Beguiling individuals are frequently talented at figuring out something worth agreeing on with individuals they communicate with, in any event, when there's not a lot to go on. Analyst and resigned FBI specialist Schaefer focuses to Johnny Carson as somebody who favored being separated from everyone else, except figured out how to be incredibly friendly for the camera. At the point when you deviate, attempt to truly pay attention to the next individual instead of setting up your reaction, which exploration shows brilliant individuals will generally do, she says. It could seem like you absolutely differ, yet on nearer assessment you could settle on a couple of things, to some degree on a basic level. She adds that it's generally really smart to stay aware of recent developments and industry news, since those are the things the vast majority share for all intents and purpose. Schaefer additionally exhorts searching for shared conviction contemporaneously. You're from California? I'm from California. Transiently, I'm wanting to visit California 1 year from now, or vicariously, my little girl works for a firm in Silicon Valley. Watch their body. One more key to affability is to reflect the nonverbal communication of the other individual. Whenever individuals are speaking and they start to reflect each other, it is a sign that have a decent affinity, says Schaefer. So you can utilize that and mirror them so you can motion toward them that you have great affinity, he says. It is additionally a decent method for testing how the discussion is going. In the event that you change your own situation and the other individual duplicates you, it is most likely working out in a good way. Anybody working in deals should utilize that second to begin their pitch. Assuming you are hoping to give your relationship with your new dearest companion some lifespan, it could likewise merit utilizing something Schaefer alludes to as the Hansel and Gretel strategy. A typical slip-up that a significant number of us make is to overpower new individuals with an excessive amount of data about ourselves, which can put them off. All things considered, Schaefer suggests uncovering insights regarding yourself gradually, like bread scraps, so each new snippet of data goes about as interest snares to make all the difference for their advantage. You steadily discharge data about yourself to keep the relationship alive, he clarifies. A speedy blaze of your eyebrows can convey the right messages, simply make sure to grin too, if not you could look abnormal. There will be, nonetheless, circumstances where you should get somebody to like you unnaturally quick. Assuming that is the situation, Schaefer, whose 20 years at the FBI, included getting individuals to unveil restricted intel, has systems for getting individuals to respond to individual questions. Possible explanations like "you sound as though you're 25 to 30, will regularly lead the other individual to answer with an affirmation like, "Indeed, I'm 30, or a rectification, "I'm 35. Another methodology may be to utilize compensation, where offering individual subtleties of your own life for the most part brings about response. Research has found that the faster I can get somebody to address individual questions, the speedier that relationship will propel, says Schaefer. So on the off chance that I'm selling something, the more rapidly I foster compatibility and motivate you to say a wide range of personal insights regarding your life, the quicker you will regard me as a companion and the quicker I can get to my sell. When in doubt, just investing energy close to somebody can make the person in question like you, even in outrageous conditions. Schaefer opens his book with a tale from the FBI about an unfamiliar covert agent who was in American authority. Regular Schaefer sat in his cell unobtrusively perusing the paper until at last dread gave way to interest and the covert operative needed to begin a discussion. So at first it was nearness and span, says Schaefer. And afterward I progressively presented power, really inclining toward him, expanding eye-to-eye connection, and so forth. It required months, yet Schaefer at last got what he needed. So next time you stroll into a room loaded up with new faces, with a touch of exertion, it very well may be you that everyone needs to get to know.